Okay, so there's a number of things that I want to cover in this video. There's apparently Wall Street protesters are stinking up Wall Street. Soros is apparently not the funder of these protests, which I find is interesting. That just came off the newswire right away. There's going to be Occupy Wall Street demonstrations in Canada starting this October 15th. There were 24 that were killed in clashes by troops killed in Cairo, and I thought that was quite interesting because there's some concerns about the implementation of martial law and these protesters in Tibet who are immolating themselves, killing themselves in Tibet, monks. So one of the key things I want to emphasize here is that psychopaths, those that preside over the world that we live in, that I keep telling you about, that you need to come to know how these psychopaths operate, those that have developed this system, they preside over great nations and great changes in America and all around the world. And they do create these revolutions. And they also seize control of countries or nations that are pregnant with revolution and oversee the transformation. And in many cases, they guide these revolutions just as they are guiding this Anonymous, right? The internet hackers anonymous group that is now on the streets of Wall Street posing as anonymous. You know, you remember the movie V for Vendetta. The movie that pretty much outlines a lot of what is happening on the streets of the United States right now as the power control force, those who love power and control. That's why I call them the power control force, because they thrive off power and control. And they develop all these scripts and stories and realities in order to manipulate you into their program, into their matrix. They are the controllers of this matrix system that we have all grown up into. Okay? And Occupy Wall Street is just another example of how you are being ushered into this 99%. You are the 99%. You are being ushered into revolutions for the next 7 to 10 years, a decade. And so that this will become the norm. This is historical. This will become the norm. And if you thought the 60s was pretty intense, think of this as times 4. Uranus went into Aries March 11th, 2011. Uranus represents, was the same, went into Aries in the 60s. But it's going to be times 4 in terms of revolutionary type of energy. So this stinking up of Wall Street, protesters accused of living in filth. These are there's a picture here that I wanted to share with you that people are being accused of defecating on police cars and creating unsanitary and filthy conditions. And there is elsewhere found piles of stinking refuse clogging Zuccotti Park, despite the best efforts of many of the protesters to keep the area clean. This is the 4th week of protests in Manhattan. So I found that quite interesting picture. People are desperate, you know, and there aren't those potty systems down on Wall Street. People are using public restaurants and wherever they can go to go. Anyway, Soros is apparently not a funder of Wall Street protests. Rush Lombardi, apparently, or Lombard, who has a radio show, said that Soros was a funder. And now this report just came out of Reuters, hot off the press. Soros spokesman Michael Vacon said that Soros has not funded the protest directly or indirectly. He added, assertions to the contrary are an attempt by those who oppose the protesters to cast doubt on the authenticity of the movement. This is not an authentic movement. This is a psyops by the power control force to manipulate the matrix, their matrix, so that they get you to the 99% to be distracted and not really come or really learn the truth of what's really going on at a higher level. Because if you start learning or tuning in to videos like this, and you can start connecting the dots and get the higher order of what's going on here, which is that they don't want you to do, you can understand the matrix and transcend the matrix. What you're to do is to become like Neo, right? How do you become like Neo? You do the inner deeper work. You transcend and move into the heart, and you do the inner deeper work. Instead of going out in the streets and protesting, you have to know who you are before you can go out and protest in the streets. So Soros has donated at least $3.5 million to an organization called the Tides Center. Remember that. In recent years, earmarking the funds for specific purposes. Tides has given grants to Adbusters, an anti-capitalist group in Canada whose inventive marketing campaign sparked the first demonstrations last month for this Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street. The Adbuster Corporation, or company, is in Vancouver, British Columbia, where I live, which I find quite interesting. The rabbit hole goes so deep. IRS disclosures, discount documents, and reports from Tides also show that Tides gave Adbusters grants of $185,000 from 2001 to 2010, including nearly $26,000 between 2007 and 2009. Now Soros funds this Tides Foundation. The Vancouver-based Adbusters publishes a magazine with a circulation of 120,000 and is known for its spoofs for popular advertisements. It says it wants to change the way corporations wield power, and its goal is to topple existing power structures. Well, this is controlled opposition, clearly, by the power control force. They are infiltrating their own media system and putting out ads to promote their Arab demonstrations and the Occupy Wall Street demonstrations through this syndicate, media syndicate, Adbusters, which is based in Vancouver, British Columbia, which I found quite interesting, because I believe that a mega thrust earthquake is going to happen off the coast of Vancouver Island, because Vancouver Island has a mathematical code of phi, and so it will be a phi code ritual. A mega thrust earthquake off the coast of Vancouver Island, which will create a tsunami over 100 miles high and affect the Vancouver Island, Vancouver, all the way down to Seattle, Oregon, Portland, and the northern coast of California through the Cascadia Fault. And it will not be a natural disaster. This will be a man-made disaster by who? These psychopaths that run the world, the power control force. Those who manipulate and create this matrix system that you buy into on a daily basis. It's their system. They're rolling out their last days, Armageddon, Judgment Day scenario, coming to a theater near you. Now look at the word democracy, because democracy seems to be a big thing that's coming up with these Occupy Wall Street demonstrations. People, the 99%, are wanting to maintain or retain their democracy. And I found this quite interesting. Democracy is a form of government. Well, the power control is a form of government. It's created by the power control force. So you think you live in a democratic, free system, and yet it's a prison system. It's a matrix designed to keep you creating within the matrix and not creating outside the matrix. And so your creation, what you are creating, your reality that you're creating, is finite. It's not infinite. And you're an infinite creative being. It's very interesting. So anyway, democracy is a form of government in which all people have an equal say in the decisions that affect their lives. Ideally, this includes equal and more or less direct participation in the proposal, development, and passage of legislation into law. it can also encompass social, economic, and cultural conditions that enable the free and equal practice of political self-determination. Well, I understand self-determination, but democracy is a form of government. Again, it's a power control force system. So who wants to be under a government? So really look at democracy and what it really means, because what you're being ushered into out of this democratic system, which is really a prison system, is you're being ushered into what I would call tyranny. You saw the movie, hopefully, V for Vendetta. Tyranny is the next, is what you're being ushered into at this point. And you need to come to know that. So, but most of you are thinking you're going down to Wall Street to occupy Wall Street and don't even know why you're there. It's a very interesting setup, because the power control force doesn't want you to organize yourselves. They want you to be anonymous. They want you to be without a leader, a leaderless organization. Look at this. Anonymous group has this as their flag. The green representing the heart chakra. They've got the world in the background, and then they've got the leaves, which looks to me like the IMF logo and International Monetary Fund. And then they've got this man with a suit with no arms and no head. Anonymous. Just like the Anonymous movie, the V for Vendetta, the Anonymous. Well, your psychopaths are anonymous. We don't really know who they are. They hide behind deception programs or psyops like comets, and then administer their HARP technology on the planet, creating chaos and mayhem and earth changes like you wouldn't coming out of your wazoo. So while there is no universally accepted definition of democracy, equality and freedom have both been identified as important characteristics of democracy since ancient times. Yes, equality and freedom. You have no idea what equality and freedom is until you do the deeper inner work and come to know the truth of who you are. You are a sovereign, free being. And because you are tied up in the matrix, you have a narrow perception of who you think you are. You're only experiencing yourself through the 5 sense personality aspect of who you are. And the power control force knows this. And so how do they control you? They control you by keeping you in this left brain prison manipulation program and out of the heart. And once you go into the heart, you can become like Neo and transcend this matrix system. And regardless of whether this system is working or not, you can create beside it. You can create or manipulate this system. And you don't have to engage in this system. See, that's the beauty. Once you come to know the truth of the reality in the world in which you live in, you can transcend it. That's what we're here to do. They don't want that to happen. So you have to understand that, yes, you are the 99%. But you are the 99%. But the 1%, as experts say, there is 1% of the population that are psychopaths. And so it must be that those at 1%, that the 99% that are down occupying Wall Street and doing demonstrations around North America now are really about coming to know that the psychopaths that run this world are the 1%, the globalists, the elitists who are running this world. They're all psychopaths. Okay, so here we go with this. 24 killed in clashes with troops as violence returns to Tahrir Square in Cairo. The protesters who began their rally from Subra district of northern Cairo were hoping to start a sit-in outside the Riverside TV complex last weekend, I believe October 9th, to highlight grievances with their community, something Egypt's groups, activists, have done numerous times in the past without trouble. But according to witnesses, they came under attack from men in plain clothes. Yeah, these are probably they're people infiltrating, and they started infiltrating these peaceful demonstrations and hurling stones at the demonstrators. Not long afterwards, though, gunshots rang out at the scene. So it seems like people are going in. They have these people going in, just like they did in London, and creating mayhem in the streets. The sudden explosion of violence raises fears that Egypt's uprising, already laboring on the weight of myriad concerns, that activists are worried that the violence will offer the generals in the country even greater reason to implement martial law. See, I was talking about martial law, and that's why they're getting you, the 99%, to go out in the streets and occupy the streets of Wall Street and other cities so that they can implement these new laws. It's a Hegelian technique all over again. All over again. Create a problem, create a reaction, find a solution. They love it. They love it. Here's another one. Protesters burn themselves to death in struggle for autonomy. I will put the links to these articles in the posting here. Breaking their vows, young Tibetan monks are self-immolating. Monks take a vow that says that they are not allowed to end their lives, but on the other hand, these actions are not for an individual. They say they are for a people. Last Friday, when two teenage former monks from Kirti set themselves alight in a main street in Nagaba, one 18, one 19-year-old, they clasped their hands together before setting themselves on fire. The flames that engulfed the two men, who had reportedly been disrobed by the Chinese authorities earlier this year, were extinguished by security forces, and the teenagers were taken to the hospital. There is no confirmed details about their condition. However, one was reported dead. The monks are just asking for simple things: to pray and to live with their own culture. Yes, but the thing is, they are still within the system. And yes, they are programmed, through their culture and through their belief systems. And now they're self-immolating because they're being disrobed. Their identity, their sense of identity is being taken away from them. But even though they may be spiritual, they do not know the truth of who they are. Because if they knew the truth of who they are, they would not be immolating themselves. They would be allowed to detach from whatever it is that's happening within their country. But because they identify with this system so much, they're killing themselves, which is really, really unfortunate, because they don't know the truth of what's really going on here. They're just very caught up in the matrix. It's unfortunate. Apparently, it's certainly something new. There's no question about it. They have not seen a precedent for this ever before. This is a new development. And so, for many of these Tibetan monks, it has become, and for many people around the world, it's become a life and death struggle. It's about sheer survival. Yeah, when you see stuff like people defecating in the streets and immolating themselves, these Tibetan monks, immolating themselves, yeah, these are pretty desperate acts. There's no known history for self-immolation, and suicide is deeply frowned upon. Well, it is a suicide, and they're desperate. Now, other thing I want to talk to you about was the G20 Stanley Cup riots. G20 in Toronto, the Stanley Cup riots cast shadow over Canadian Occupy protests. Yes, there is some concern that the protests starting this weekend in Canada may cause some unrest. Occupy Canada rally spread an economic awakening. The vagueness of the reason for these protests indicates that a lot of people are frustrated and dissatisfied with the status quo, with government and big business for many different reasons, said an individual in this article, which I'll post. If government and big business brush off these many concerns, they're only going to make matters worse. When people hear that others are raising their concerns, no matter what they are, they're likely to join in and support the cause. Yes, that's what they want you to do. This could be the beginning of something big. Yes, it is. It's a mass movement. Again, facilitated by the control matrix, those that run this world, the psychopaths. They are a lot of people say they're not that smart. They are. They know what they're doing. They've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. Know that. The Occupy Wall Street movement began September 17th with an encampment that continues today in the financial district of New York City. The movement grew out of an idea last summer by the Vancouver-based nonprofit group The Adbusters, again, Media Foundation, which was inspired by protests that toppled governments in the Middle East. Here, that Adbusters, funded by Tides, which is funded by Tides Foundation, which is funded by Soros. They're the Soros is coming up again. The Occupy Wall Street protests are taking an ugly turn. Yes, apparently they've gone up to Wall Street, and where community organizers marched uptown from Wall Street to homes of J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon, billionaire David Koch, hedge fund honcho John Paulson, Howard Milstein, and News Corp CEO Rupert Murdoch. The group was reported to be small, about 200 people. The Occupy Wall Street's So this is considered to be taking an ugly turn because they're going up and protesting uptown. Well, I think these millionaires, these psychopaths, who are sitting up and enjoying their lives, are going to have to start living in their own little prisons of exclusion, because there's going to be a lot of angry people. And don't think these Occupy Wall Street won't have some demands coming soon, because they will. And they will organize, and it'll get powerful. And we'll have to see how things happen, but these psychopaths have a plan for all this. They want you to get you on the streets now, early, create some type of scenario, some disaster, or race-related, some rioting, or the debt crisis, and then all hell's going to break loose, some rioting in the streets. So, apparently, a lot of those who believe that those that went uptown to protest, the billionaires who live up on the east side, Upper East Side, say that this is not a protest. It's a mob rule working outside the democratic system. This is a mobocracy. Mobocracy. Never heard of that. Mobocracy. Despite the best intentions of the critical mass to uphold a peaceful and nonviolent protest, the risk of those who may choose to provoke instances of violence, whether police or protesters, puts everyone in danger. Yes, that's why I say, don't go out and occupy Wall Street. Occupy your heart. Learn the technology of the heart. I do these teleconferences on Saturdays called Journey into the Hearts. And what I'm suggesting is that all of humanity learn who they are, learn about the technology of the heart, so that you can transcend this third dimensional construct, this prison system, and understand it at a whole nother level. That's what I do in these videos, is try to educate you on what's really going on here. And I like this poster. I want you to wake up others up, to know you are free, to think for yourself, to protect your rights, and to resist tyranny. Yes, because you're being ushered into a tyrannical system. When the people fear their government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. Yes, the billionaires on Wall Street are going to be fearful of those who are the 99% soon enough. And they know that. They're already fearful. And so just know that these psychopaths who run the world, they hide behind comets. They hide behind all kinds of things to facilitate their dark, sinister program in order to maintain their matrix system. And what you need to do is to move into the heart. So I encourage you to come out to my Journey to the Heart sessions on Saturday via teleconference and learn the technology of the heart. Learn the truth of who you are. Learn what your gifts and talents are, and serve humanity in a way that is really going to be supportive in the weeks, years, and months ahead, because there are going to be a lot of people needing assistance. You're so needed right now. We're in a major transformational shift, the biggest in human history. Never experienced this before. And so it's a wonderful time to be alive, but you really need to prepare yourself. So don't occupy Wall Street, occupy the heart. Learn the technology of your heart. Do the inner excavation, and don't get caught in these deception programs and living through this prison matrix as the 99%. You need to wake up out of this system so that you can create a reality of your own choosing, regardless of whether this system is functioning or not. Take care, everyone. Stay in the heart. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think. Take care. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the ride.